So what you're about to see is a demonstration of a mind mapping conversation that I had as part of one of the coffee chat events. So this is an event I do every Friday. It's usually kind of an open space. It's with fellow facilitators and we brainstorm. And this was an opportunity to demonstrate mind mapping and how it can work with a key conversation, really generate some interesting insights. Now, I will say that as part of this conversation, because I have a vested interest in facilitation, I definitely contributed my own ideas. So just bear in mind that if you were truly operating as a third-party facilitator, you would only be asking questions and not adding your own suggestions or advice. But in this case, because I had a vested interest, I was wearing a little bit of a hybrid hat. Enjoy. Okay, so we're going to do a little mind map demonstration here, but we're going to cover a topic that's near and dear and very concerning to all of our hearts, which is how to have a hybrid meeting. So what I'm going to ask, we have Linda and David Matthew on the line here, and I'm going to ask either Linda or David Matthew, is there a question or broad question about hybrid meetings that you can come up with that we can kind of brainstorm around?
I would say, what model would be best for a collaborative meeting?
A model for a collaborative meeting. Okay, so what might be some ideas, existing ideas that we have about said model?
One model might be the facilitator is in the room with live or in-person humans.
Okay. What might be some other, that sounds like a scenario. So what might be some other scenarios?
I think one would be having two concurrent meetings happening at the same time, but they're not liaising. So one, we have an online meeting and then we have an in-person meeting, but they're concurrent, but not interdependent in that sense.
And I've thought a lot about that as well. And then maybe there's like a third session where everybody's online together and they bring.
Oh, interesting, like a bridge. Yeah, like a roll-up bridge or something after the two or something like that.
I love that. Let's call it a bridge. That's a great one. What other scenarios might be?
The other scenario I've been working through is having two facilitators, one in the room who partner on the meeting design, one in the room, one online. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, that if somebody, I would prefer to do my work online, and I'm looking for partners who, facilitators who like, let me get in the room. Just as soon as somebody will hire me to be in the room, I want to be in the room and then work together. Is that you?
Yeah, it's me.
Okay, well, that's good. We definitely.
I'm ready.
Yeah, and so, yeah, having so that we would work together to come up with a design that could work synchronously,
right?
But where I handle all the online parts and you would handle all of the in-person parts. Mm-hmm. We're doing it at the same time, but we've pre-planned together how we would do the linkage.
And I'm seeing that this is all kind of connected now.
Yeah, like isn't it like isn't that the same as the other one? Like, Linda, isn't that the two partner thing? Isn't that the same as the other one, facilitator in the room, one outside, one inside?
No, because if you're the facilitator, where I was going with that first one was there's only one facilitator and you're trying to, and you're going to
be, okay.
And you're having to figure out how to get the people who are remote engaged with the people in the room.
And what might make
happy.
This scenario doable? What would you need to need or ask for if it was really only a one facilitator?
If you had a really small group of 4 people or something, I don't know, like something really, it'd have to be a size limit or something like that.
Size limit. Yep. I've also been thinking about the role of a facilitation assistant that could be client provided, who plays kind of a tech host and liaison role.
But then you're back to the tech host. You need a tech host.
A tech host, yeah.
So whoever pays for the tech host, but you need a tech host, would make it a little bit more doable.
And it might be a tech host that's actually in the room.
Yeah, on a computer in the room.
Yes, a tech host alive in the room. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another scenario that I've heard of, and I think Gina has done it, Linda, where she was actually the one online.
That's what I was
and
going
the
to say.
Entire,
Yeah.
everybody else was in the room except for Gina.
Right. I was going to say that too. That was my next one that I was going
Okay. Okay, go ahead and say it, Linda.
The opposite of the facilitator in the room, which is really the facilitator is remote.
Yeah.
And you're working with an intact team, for example, where they are in the room,
right?
You're remote, and then you've got somebody on the team who is, kind of arranging the breakout rooms, the small group discussions and things like that, handing out the Post-it notes and maybe capturing some stuff on the flip charts.
Yep. So kind of
or the facilitator could, could use Mural like you were using it earlier, as a flip chart.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or doing stickies in the room.
Yep. Another model is if one person is remote, everybody's on Zoom. One person on Zoom, everybody's on Zoom. So regardless of where the facilitator is.
Yep.
In that case, the facilitator is probably online.
So even if you're in the room,
you're on a laptop.
Right. So that's the BYOD, the bring your own device model.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I like that.
I do too.
I like that because I think that this model reduces the pressure on the facilitator to have all the gear.
Yeah.
As people are bringing their own gear, so they always have their own camera. And then whether or not you need a projector in the room or a speaker, I mean, you probably need a speaker, but whether or not you need like a projector and some of like the fancier equipment, I think is not as necessary.
Right.
Isn't that just an online meeting? I don't understand what you're making a distinction there. Like, isn't that just
some organizations, they want their people in the room. So let's say you're doing an online meeting. It is an online meeting.
Yeah.
But not everybody's working from their home. That's the difference.
Yeah, like maybe.
So like in a conference room or something.
In a conference room.
Around the table with everyone has their laptops. Yeah.
Or some people are in a conference room.
Yeah, so there might be.
Right.
A few people in the conference room.
I see. Right.
And then each of the squares is like their laptop, and then then at home there's or it could be that they're at home, or it could be here's a conference room, here's a conference room, here's a conference room.
Right. In different floors of a company or something like that. Yeah. But we're not all sitting in one space. Yeah.
So I feel like we have a good set of scenarios. The question I have is, regardless of what scenario you want, what needs to be considered?
I do feel that there needs to be some degree of simplicity or developmental, let's call it developmental hybrid. So on one side, there would be the very most simplest way of talking to a client about this concept, and it was like, you either are all together or you're all at home, there's just something that's really, that I think people have to understand, because everyone's having these preferences right now with their expectations of like, I don't want to come in, you want to come in, we want to do that, and then we try to make it really complicated. I'd love to see almost a developmental path of like, for the more sophisticated audience, blah, blah, blah. For the people who really just want to function, here's a, sandwich model. Take your peanut butter and your jelly and you do this, and then for the people who want the souffle, that's going to cost more. People are going to want their own variations, It's not going to be just not static COVID. I do think we've changed. My hypothesis or whatever is that this is a major change in our work world and our way we live and work.
Yeah.
And it's a major change in how we help educate our clients.
Yes.
Because they're thinking of it from, as you said, their perspective. They want, we got some people who are working remote and some people who are working hybrid, and we don't know who's going to be where necessarily. And I want a facilitator to figure it out.
Yes.
And so part of this is helping them understand that there are different levels of effort in facilitating, depending on what's going to be happening on that day or those days.
I think go ahead.
And it's different, it's different designs. It's different levels of technical requirements. It's different levels of effort.
Yeah.
It's different risks that we have to build in contingencies and plans for.
And it's a team level. It's no longer, I think the model, I think the model has often been the facilitator, one person.
Yeah.
And this model requires a team, like whether it's 2 people or 3 people. Like I'm inspired by just talking about it with you two, because I'm thinking, oh, this is great. We could balance each other in terms of, catch each other, red flags, find out creative solutions, but work as a team. And therefore, I think it can be charged more for.
Oh, it has to be.
Yeah, and it accommodates the complexity, not just even the resources, but the creative complexity of doing this.
Yeah. So there's more things to add to your discovery. I think there's questions for your discovery. There's the communications side, and like there's the communications. I also think it's worthwhile to as much as possible do space walkthroughs in advance. Those are kind of the 3 things I'm noodling on, or like, we do a space walkthrough, we get a sense of the layout, we make sure that we have really good registration or communication / registration, so we know in advance who's going to be where. And we include in our discovery call that at least sense of who's going to be where, so that it can be scoped.
And then the other thing, Lauren, that so you're talking about doing all that stuff in advance. One of the other things you have to work through with a client, what happens if something changes?
Well, and then this comes to play in hybrid and COVID times, because people could show up and they have a fever and then they got to go home. And so if they fail the check-in, then there has to be an accommodation.
Well, and there needs to be a check-in.
Yeah.
And how long do we going to have that check-in? And clients aren't even thinking about check-in.
Right.
Probably not checking in people who come every day.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. To me, it's all about, I just wrote down options. It's all about options and contingencies. I actually don't think it has to be super hard. Like, I think that it could actually be a little bit easier than we think it is. It's probably just a matter of doing it a few times.
Yeah.
And getting our feet wet. Like I'm doing, because I'm not doing a hybrid session, but I'm doing an in-person session in a couple of weeks. And just in kind of planning that and thinking through, I'm having some realizations of, oh, okay, well, I just need to make sure there's a backup Zoom line and Wi-Fi. If I just had those 2 things, it may not be perfect, but we can make it work. And I have 2 facilitators, and I know between both of us we'll make it work. So even if you can't think of everything in advance, you've at least done some contingency planning.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's like a COVID contingency chapter of this. Basically, I think
Yeah.
it's like with Australia when they were saying, "Oh yeah, well now they're talking about Western Australia, like we're going to shut, something happened and we heard about a COVID and we're going to shut down 24 hours and the state's not going to even allow us to fly." So there has to be kind of an open close plan of like, if this
Yeah.
shuts down the day of or better,
Mhm.
that everybody agrees, client agrees, we immediately go, we have contracted for you to pivot and we'll still pay you the same, but
Mhm.
you will take care of all of that. You have the online,
Well, and
post.
if that's the case, then they're paying you to prepare the online
Yes,
version
yes,
in advance
yes, yes,
in case
yes,
you need it.
yes.
Yeah.
If that's the insurance that they're paying,
Right.
basically.
Yes.
What I'd love to do is just have both of you highlight for me what's your one key takeaway from our conversation, even related to this or even from a process standpoint.
So one takeaway is I need to have more of these discussions on how we might do this with other people rather than just noodling it as much as I have been doing in my head.
Yeah. What about you, David?
Yeah, well, Lauren, you are dancing with markers today for sure.
Yeah.
That's great. The other thing, it has felt in person and online to me the way you set it up, because you put up the cameras and the flip charts. And
Yeah.
I really feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
I feel like I'm sitting almost in your house. Like, I know it's not the same thing, but it's much more dynamic the way you're doing it. So I think that has been great. I love the creativity, and I also like the intelligence of the collaborative intelligence that's going on in this session.
So that's, I mean, it's a good insight, because in theory, if I was the facilitator in room
Yeah.
and I have just a webcam set up
Yeah.
to point towards the flip charts and everyone has their own devices, then everyone in the room can see who's online and everyone online can see what's being written up on the board.
Lauren, what did you get from this? What happened for you with this?
I got a mind mapping video from a course. Well, I was struggling a little bit thank you for that. I was struggling a little bit when we got started because I really wanted to get my big paper out. But then for me, it was, well, I can't get that easel to work, so let's just throw some flip charts. And it was just for me reminding myself that I can be scrappy and I can think in the moment and make it work. And it doesn't have to take that much time or effort. And I think I myself have been hesitant to work this way on paper with a big group because I didn't think that you could see it, but I feel like you can see it.
You can see it.
Because I had to just move my webcam closer, which is just a tripod. So I'm like, okay, this is possible.
Totally. Yeah.
It's possible. Fun. Marker flip. Still got it.